We're in the days prior to Shavuot, and Shavuot is a chag that we prepare for. We prepare for it, we count Sfiras Omer, we prepare ourselves for Kabbalas HaTorah. Torah is something that requires preparation. And in fact, we prepare ourselves for Talmud Torah every day, because we say Birchas HaTorah, and not only one bracha. We say 3 brachas, and we say Hava Rabbah, Hava Zolam, and we're preparing ourselves for Kabbalas HaTorah. Torah is something that requires preparation. Let's examine the Birchas HaTorah for a moment. Asher bochar banu mikol ami. The Rebbeinu Shalom chose us. It says it in the past tense. V'nosan lanu es Torasa, and He gave us the Torah. He gave us the Torah in the past tense. Baruch Ato Hashem. Noisein HaTorah in the present tense. Torah was given to us on Har Sinai. Why isn't the bracha Nosan HaTorah? Why is it Noisen? Why is it in the present tense? Why are we making this bracha, switching the tense and emphasizing that Hashem is giving us the Torah? What does it mean that Hashem is giving us the Torah? What does that mean? The Pasuk says, "Es advorim ha'ela dibra Hashem el kol kahalchem bahar miteicho eish anan varafel kol godel v'lo Yosef." There was a call that came down to Har Sinai. There was a kol godel, a great mighty call, the sound. V'lo Yosef, Rashi says, li posuk. It did not stop. Ki kole chazak v'kayim la'olam. It's eternal. It's there forever. This call from Har Sinai is eternal. It's there forever. What does it mean it's there forever? Does anybody hear the call? Do we hear that call? It's la'olam, kayim la'olam. It's eternal. Why don't we hear that voice? What does that mean, that it's eternal? Rashi says it's because it's a kol v'shchina, so this kol of v'shchina, it's eternal. But what does that mean? Zok the Maharal. Maharal's Mefarsh, he explains that a human being, it's his call, his voice, it's physical. We are part of the physical realm, the Olam Hagashmi. The Rebbeinu Shalom, it's all ruchni. It's not a physical call. It's not the sound waves. It's not the call from the vocal cords. It's the kol haruchni, it's the hashpa from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Once that hashpa, the Torah is yer l'shamayim, it's there. It's eternal. It's here. It's here right now. We just have to be able to tune into it. We have to be able to be the klei kibul, to be able to attach ourselves to it, to attach ourselves to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and to be able to hear that call. We have to be able to want to hear it so much that hashpah from the Rebbeinu Shalom, that we have that hashpah and we're able to hear that voice, to hear that call. The call is here. It's up to us to be able to tune in to that call, to be able to hear it, to be inspired from it, and to be able to have the shefa from the Rebbeinu Shalom of that call. So we make the bracha Noisin HaTorah, like the Bach says in our Chaim, like the Bach says, that it's Noisin HaTorah because the Torah has been given every day. The Torah has been given every day because every day there's a hashpah from the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's constant. And we make the bracha, new bracha every day. Because there's a hashpah, constant hashpah from the Rebbeinu Shalom that allows us to tune into that and to be inspired and enlightened by the call that came down from Har Sinai. We make the bracha Noisin Hamalamei Torah L'Ama Yisrael, because the Rebbeinu Shalom is teaching us the Torah constantly. Like the Zohar says that anyone who is oisik b'Torah, if he's oisik b'Torah wholeheartedly, if he's oisik b'Torah, it's ki'ilu, he's oimed at Har Sinai, he's mekabel the Torah from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Right now, this Shavuot, today, tomorrow, if we want to be mekabel the Torah, like on Har Sinai, we will be able to be makabel the Torah. The Nefesh HaChaim says in Shar Dalit, anytime a person is oisik b'Torah, is misdabik, he attaches wholeheartedly, completely, without mechitzas, without reservation, then hadvorim smeichem kinesinosan misinai. It's like we're accepting it from Har Sinai. It's like we're getting the Torah now. And on that basis, the Torah Chaim says in Bava Metzia, what's a koyach to be mechanish chedushim? We see from generation to generation that there are chidushim. This chidushim. What do you mean chidushim? The Torah is given at Sinai, and every generation is further and further and further away from Sinai. So their koyach Torah should be diminished, and in fact, that is so. That is the case. There's a Yeridas Adaris, but nevertheless, every generation has the koyach to be mechadish chidushim. Where does that koyach come from? That koyach comes from the fact that the Hashkafa, the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Kol God of Eloi Yosef, the Kol is here. And every person and every generation can attach himself to that koyach and draw more and draw different things, different chidushim from that Kol, from that Hashkafa of the Rebbeinu Shalom that is ever present. And therefore, there's ability to be mechadish chidushim. It's a davar pella. It's an amazing thing that we, our lowly generation, compared to the great Dirshu that preceded us, but we're still capable of being mechanish chidushim. I want to read to you something incredible. I want to read to you the words of the Ravid. Incredible Maisa Shahoya at the time of the Ravid. It's not written in some obscure sefer. It's not hidden away. It's something that's right in front of us in the Yarach HaZokah. And the Rambam, on Perek in Zmanim in Hilchos Lulav, Perek Ches, Halacha Hey, the Rambam paskins that hadas sheniktam reisha kosher. A hadas where the tip of it was cut off is kosher. Listen to these words of the Ravid. So the Hagos, Hasagas Ravid on the Rambam says as follows: Kosev Ravid Zal Kvar Hoifia Ruach HaKodesh beBeis Midrashenu Mikama Shonim. There was a Ruach HaKodesh that appeared in our Beis Midrash several years ago. Ruach HaKodesh in their Beis Midrash. Ve'aleinu shu posel kistam mas nisan. And as opposed to the Rambam, we concluded that it's posel. The Rambam paskin is kosher. We concluded that it is posel. What do you mean? What do you mean? What happened? A baskol came down and paskin that it's posel. And even if that would be the case, we know that in mashkichim bebaskol, we know that we can come paskin based on a baskol. So what does the Ravid mean over here? The Chazam Sefer says the Ravid doesn't mean that there was a baskol that came down and said posel and they paskin posel. That's not what it means. It means is that they were zoicha to learn, and they learned it to such an extent that this is what was revealed to them. What does that mean? The pshat is as follows. The Ravid is saying that we were learning this sugya in the Beis Medrash, and we learned it with such dveikus, and we learned it with such dveikus and with such ava. We were misdabik and we were oisik to the depths of it, and we were enlightened. We were enlightened by the Ruach HaKodesh, not a baskol. We were enlightened by the Ruach HaKodesh that's ever present. The Kol God of Lo Yosef that's always present. And we were able to connect with it, and therefore we concluded based on this Hashkafa, this amazing Hashkafa that we had, that the din is that it is possible. In the time of the Ravid, so many, many years after Maimed Har Sinai, they still had Ruach HaKodesh. It wasn't Nevuah. It wasn't a baskol, but it was the Ruach HaKodesh of Chachamim that in our times, as Chazal say, there's no Nevuah, but the Nevuah is by Chachamim. Because we're able to connect to this Kol God of Eloi Yosef of the Rebbeinu Shalom and be enlightened with that Ruach HaKodesh. And that's an ability that we all have. Of course, as the years go on, And as Niskatnu Adeiris, and as the influence of the world around us increases, and as the tumult of the world around us increases, and the ability to isolate ourselves from that diminishes, it's more and more difficult. But we do have that capability if we have the Rotzain. If we have the Rotzain and the will, B'leiv Sholem, to connect to that Kol Gadol Lo Yosef, to the Hashpa, the ever-present Shechina, the Kol of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and be enlightened and be Chadash Chedushin and elevate ourselves higher.